I'm Ian Gibson. I serve as the Dean of Global Campus here at SDSU. Thrilled to be connecting with all of you. This series has been a blast so far, and it's wonderful that you're here with us today. I'm going to be sharing a few insights into the labor demand side of the skills associated with project professionals. So if we could please advance to slide 3, one more. Fantastic. So on this slide is something truly remarkable. The global need for skilled project managers is absolutely soaring. According to recent data from the Project Management Institute, nearly 30 million additional project management professionals will be required worldwide by 2035. It's not that far into the future. And to put this in perspective, that's more than double the anticipated global shortfall of nurses, which according to the WHO is around 13 million. Now, clearly, project management functions aren't just important, this is mission critical across the globe. And if we dig deeper into these numbers in the next slide, what we can see is the scale of these PM-related roles. Now, by 2035, the global demand, so this isn't just the new project managers, but the total number of project management professionals projected to reach around 65 million. This is what's creating that gigantic talent shortage of nearly 30 million people. If you read the footnotes here, there are some exits from current roles. That's what's going to really make up the balance of these numbers. No matter how you slice it up, this is an enormous need and one that shows no signals of decay in the next 5 to 10 years. Next slide, please. So the call for expert project management skills is obviously intensifying and is doing so across industries such as construction, manufacturing, IT services, and healthcare. And this surge is being driven primarily by rapid adoption of advanced technologies and digital transformation around the world. Now, if you add to this the global shift towards sustainable and renewable energy projects, the demand skyrockets even further. So some of the regions experiencing the most rapid growth include South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and China. And this is because there's major infrastructure projects underway, along with rapid urbanization, digital innovation, et cetera. So the appetite in those regions is certainly high. Now, if we go to the next slide, we're going to drill into just the US. So here domestically, the demand for skilled project managers isn't just growing, it's accelerating even faster than what anticipated by our experts in just recent years. So companies are increasingly seeking talent who can leverage artificial intelligence to enhance productivity and improve project outcomes. So there's kind of two dynamic forces here that are really driving this forward. And it was in a 2023 study by PMI that revealed this impressive number. 82% of senior executives foresee AI profoundly reshaping project management within 5 years. This is a huge majority. Yet the scary part is only about 18% of those project managers feel sufficiently experienced in AI tools. So to put this more plainly, 4 out of 5 project managers urgently need to upgrade their AI experience. And this, of course, is highlighting precisely why we're all gathered here today. So in the next slide, we're going to zoom in a little closer to home here in San Diego. Over the past year, San Diego saw an impressive 18% rise in demand for skilled project managers. And this is with salaries that are significantly above the national average. So clearly, San Diego is not just keeping up with this national trend, it's leading the trend. And it's making our city a hotspot for professionals who excel in AI-driven project management. Next slide, please. So as Andrea mentioned in the intro here, we're here representing San Diego State University, Global Campus, and the Career Skills Institute, which is housed within Global Campus. And what we're all about is exploring these practical strategies for harnessing AI and other tools to elevate your work. So please consider CSI as your gateway to mastering these critical AI-powered project management skills, along with many other things. And with that said, it's my pleasure to intro today's expert, Mike Tedasco. Mike is a visiting fellow at the James Sibrad Brown Center for Artificial Intelligence at San Diego State. He mentors students, he champions innovative research, and he's deeply committed to thought leadership on using AI to positively impact our communities and society. And with that, Mike, the floor is yours.
Ian, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and Andrea as well. Thank you both for the great intro and the lead up here. And hello, everyone on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever it is that you're watching this at some point, either now or in the future. Excited to be here with you all. For folks who are watching this live, I would love questions for this. And I think we will probably the best place is probably going to be to just like drop them in the chat, and I think we'll get to them at the end. And it could be AI stuff, project management stuff, whatever it is that you have. AI is really my area of expertise, though. But you can ask whatever you want to, and that's okay. I will take any and all questions as part of this. As Ian already teed up here, AI is really going to transform all jobs, but especially I think in the world of project management, it is going to start to change things. It's actually kind of funny. So I'm doing this right now in my garage, in part because inside my house right now, we are getting a bathroom and an office redone as part of this. And what does that require to do this and to do it efficiently and to do it well? A whole lot of project management. And look, I actually live in Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of tech forward people up here. And it's funny because the company that's doing this actually uses a bunch of different AI tools as part of what they're doing for recording their calls, for doing all of these other things as part of the process. It's kind of fascinating. And in some ways, you wouldn't expect the home renovation company to be at the forefront of the tech of this, but like when these tools are accessible for all, and that's what you start to see. And so it's really interesting, and it is already starting to transform how all of us work. This was something from HBR from 2023, so a few years back, and a few things from here, and any of you can read the full article. The jobs are going to shift. All of our jobs will shift, and the world that you were in before is going to be different that the world that we are going into in the future. If you're a project manager, the tasks that you do, and for all of us, a job is simply a series of tasks that any of us do. The tasks that you used to do are going to look very different going forward. Hopefully, going forward, it's going to be more strategic, more innovative, more hands-on interactive with folks, and it's going to be less of the note-taking, less of the probably the more mundane things that are part of your job or part of a project manager's job. That is going to be the stuff that is going to be able to be upskilled through AI. And we're going to talk about how you can start doing those types of things already today. Yeah. Or said more pessimistically, actually, I don't even know if I have volume on this thing or not. So, said more pessimistically. Yes, that was AI trying to recreate Sarah Connor from the Terminator, say there's a storm coming. And if you remember that movie, and again, this is done through Google's VO3 model that makes images and all that. This was done from a literally a 10-word prompt. It was able to make this. Um, what we are leading into in this world now is very different. There is a storm coming, and you want to be at the forefront of these technological shifts, understand how to use this, understand what it's going to mean for your job. You don't want to be the person who's just kind of putting it all aside saying, I don't really need to use this. I don't need to use email. I don't need to use computers. I don't need to use whatever it is. Just kind of think to the parallels in the past that we have had that have, are now ubiquitous. AI will be just as ubiquitous going forward. All right, there we go. Agenda. So a little bit of intro, and then we're going to get into 5 different and distinct case studies. And through all of this, we're just going to be kind of like throwing out an example. And to be very clear and transparent, I am an AI guy. I am not necessarily an expert in project management. I've actually led project management teams in the past. I've dabbled in it myself. My whole career has been in product and innovation and a whole bunch of different things. So I have some expertise, but really it's focusing more on the AI tools is where I'm coming at you today. And we're going to walk through those case studies. And at the end, if I time all of this well, hopefully we will have ample time for Q&A. So if you got a Q right now, just go ahead and drop it in the chat, and I will do my best to answer it at the end of all this. So Real quickly, who the heck am I? Again, I love showing just AI stuff on here. So I went into an AI tool called Midjourney and said Mike Tedasco, and that's what it gave me. And if folks actually see, like, that's maybe an optimistic take that the AI model gave of what Mike Tedasco looks like, but I'll go with it. I'll go with it. At least it got the facial hair in all the scenarios. At least figured out that much. I used to be at PayPal for a long time in tech, live in Silicon Valley, write about, obsess over AI. I spent my whole Thursday yesterday just using the new Grok 4 model from XAI and writing a piece about it. Like that's the kind of stuff I get to do for a living. And part of the reason I get to do that is through the AI Center at San Diego State, which where I am a visiting fellow. I get to work on all those kind of things. And if anybody's really interested, I do have an AI blog. It's totally free. I try to talk about things in a way that everyone can understand about the new and emerging AI stuff. So check it out if you're at all interested. All right, let's get into case studies. So one of the things here, we're going to kind of put things up. So we're going to talk about automating project reporting. And a lot of this is going to be about automation and so forth as part of it. In this one, I'm going to use Claude as an example to make it so you never have to create another status report. When I actually did this last time, I did live demos of this, and not that live demos don't work because they actually do. It's amazing how good these tools have actually gotten. It was just too much damn flipping between things to get to the Zoom to get it to work. So I'm just using screenshots, but like I could do this stuff live pretty darn easily if we wanted to. It was just too much flipping for me to handle. But we're going to use a tool called Claude made by a company called Anthropic. What if you never had to create another status report? That's where we're going with this. But first, before I get into that, and this was like the preamble that I was wanting to put out there, I want to talk about models. And again, just yesterday, big hubbub because XAI, Elon Musk's company, put out a new model called Grok 4. And anything that ends in without a decimal point needed at the end is usually a big deal from a marketing perspective. These models, generally speaking, are all really damn good. They are really interchangeable. Whether you're talking about ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, XAI, they all do real similar things and real similar things well. When I'm highlighting one model and not another one here, it might be because it does do it a little bit better, but we're talking generally speaking like 10%. So just because I'm using Claude in this first example, and let's just say at your workplace or wherever you might be, you have a license to Gemini, you could kind of assume it's going to do the same thing and do it as well, if not almost as well. I'm using this to showcase a few different models because every place has different ones, but they're all good. The last thing I want people to do from this is model chase. And what I mean by that is like literally yesterday, XAI releases a brand new model. All of a sudden, they're like, well, there go all my old workflows. I'm going to switch everything over to this. No, you don't need to do that. That's actually just more work. So whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever your employer is using and sponsoring and allowing you to put data in for, which is really important, whatever it might be, that model is probably going to be good enough. Especially if it is one of these one of these 5 examples that we have up here. They're all really quite good at doing most things. Okay, that said, get a little bit. Oh yeah, and one thing, and this actually came out, and more. This is just for reference. This is from Ethan Mollick, which he has a great blog. He's a professor at Wharton. This was a little bit of way to just understand a little bit better all the tools and what they're good for. Because even if you're within a tool ecosystem, it's sometimes tough to tell. ChatGPT right now probably has 8 different models that you can choose from. And it is definitely not always that the bigger number is better. Sometimes a smaller number is better, and sometimes you want this, and maybe you want deep research or not. Like, it's really darn confusing. So hopefully this is a little thing that helps. And worst case scenario, when you ever have questions like this, like, I don't know what to use, ask the model itself, saying like, hey, ChatGPT, hey, Claude, hey, Gemini, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. I have access to you. These are all the models that I have access to. It may or may not know that, so you might have to include a screenshot. Which of these models would be best for solving this type of problem? And you know what? You're going to start to learn that over time, and you'll find you're more comfortable with one of these models within that family. I say that all now because we're in a weird in-between time where it is still really confusing. Hopefully, at some point in the near future, you won't have to go model picking all the time. There's just going to be one model from whatever company you have, and it's going to just do everything for you. That's where we're moving towards, but we're not there yet. Okay, back to what I was talking about before. So here's what I want to do. So the challenge that I'm given is I want to create a product brief and have Claude generate some artifacts. So what you could use this for are things like sprint planning, dependency mapping, any of these types of examples here. So like that's what I'm going to do. So like given this lengthy product brief, what can Claude actually generate from that? So if you're working with a product manager, they have developed a product brief. That's kind of the starting point that you could then go into Claude and say, hey, what can you do with this? So I actually had Gemini 2.5 Pro create a product brief for a fictitious product for me. And it was like this 20-page, blah, whatever it was. But I mean, it was like, it was a legit formatted product brief that you have there. So here's what I said to Claude. Given this product brief, can you build a portfolio of reports a project manager would use and label them as such? Gantt charts, etc. I wasn't even being specific here. I was just like, yeah, do what you want to do with this. Of course, if you're being a project manager on this and you have that, you probably have some very specific things that you want for it to generate. So given that prompt, this was a little bit of the result that you could see from there. Whoa, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I was trying to move my little Zoom guy here. There we go. Let me get this so I can actually see what I have myself. And one of the cool things, so you can see, like, I didn't do anything for formatting. I didn't tell it anything other than give it that one prompt, and this is what it spat out to me. So you could see, budget dashboard, Gantt chart. Those were just two of the things that it generated for me. You can even use tools like Claude to make these things interactive. You can share these with other people within the organization just by hitting a publish button. And if you're on an enterprise account, you'd be able to then share that link to others that are within your team. You can do all of these types of things. And again, this was just coming from like a two-line prompt that you saw before. So, and this is kind of the quote unquote lazy way to do it. If you have a certain format, if you have whatever it is, you can actually say, hey, this is what I like my Gantt charts to look like. I want this color for this color for this. This is what I've done in the past. Can you create that for me? And do you know what? It's going to be able to do it and do it pretty well. One thing you do have to always be aware of is the concept of hallucinations or confabulations. These can happen. They will happen. They happen much, much less now than they have in the past, but you should always be aware of that. So if you give it something that is really precise, give it very clear instructions, give it a very clear format, it should, and you're using one of the better models of like the 5 that I suggested, it should be able to do that without any hallucination. But again, as we're still in this kind of in-between times using AI, probably want to just check that over first. Because whatever you're producing out here is going to be, you are going to get all the credit for it. And in many ways, you will get all the blame if there is something off with that. But just be aware of that. And especially as you become more and more familiar with these tools, the kind of scenarios where it's like, yeah, it's going to be able to do that, or I'm asking it a bit much for what it is, and it's more likely to hallucinate in those scenarios. The more you use the tools, the more familiar you will get. Okay, intelligent meaning management. And here I'm flagging Fireflies, but you could use Firefly, you could use Otter. You can use, I think Fathom is another one out there. I think Zoom, I think Teams all have these kind of tools even that are becoming embedded now. All these are AI software add-ons that you can put into your Teams or Zoom meeting, and it will record that and do a whole bunch of magic from that. So, uh, here's a story. I'll start. So, this is supposed to be Ray Dalio. Kind of looks like him, but not quite. He's the founder of a company called Bridgewater. It's the world's biggest hedge fund. And one of the things that they've been doing at Bridgewater for like the last 25 years now is they are recording every single meeting within the company, and it is searchable by every single employee. I couldn't get an exact number on how many people work there. It's probably at least 1,000 people or something, but just kind of imagine that. So this is a company where they define culture as one of having no secrets. Um, this required a whole bunch more work 25 years ago that it did today. If you are a project manager and, and say you have a whole bunch of different things in your portfolio, and maybe you have other people working for you, you can make this kind of strategic decision just saying, hey, we're going to actually record everything. We're going to put that in there. We're going to give access to these people within the company, and everything will be searchable. We're going to empower our organization to be able to do this. And you could be kind of the puppet master, pulling the strings, allowing all of that to happen. I'm not saying that is always the right choice. I'm not saying that's the right choice for you. And not every company does this. Bridgewater is by far the kind of the most famous one that has done this. But like you can start to make these choices now because what took Ray Dalio a ton of extra work, development, effort, all this kind of stuff to have teams do this over the last 25 years within his organization just takes a few clicks of an AI software to do today. So in this example, say you just want to record your stand-up and it's being done on some kind of electronic platform. You want to know the risks, assumptions, dependencies, and issues, and so forth. And you want to log that and you want to have follow-up emails that are generated from that. It can be anything, daily stand-up, it doesn't matter, whatever it might be. Here's all that you do. Basically, you would use a tool. Again, this is Fireflies just as an example. And I just pulled this one offline from the Fireflies website because I actually don't have access to Fireflies myself. But here, you can kind of see what you have. So you would add the Fireflies to that meeting or Otter or whatever else. And then you would then be able to, after the fact, go to that page and you would be able to see a transcript and it's going to be able to identify a person with the speaker and it's going to be able to start to capture tasks and all that. And this kind of becomes your dashboard from which you can work from. And you can share this across people in the organization. You can keep this to yourself. You can kind of manage this however you want. These tools cost, I think $10 to $20 range is usually where they start for Otter or Fireflies. There's probably enterprise, per license, it might go up from there, but I think that's fairly typical. It's pretty competitive, but wow. If you are spending a lot of time doing this, this is something to explore. And with all these tools, one other thing I'll say is I never, ever, ever want you to just say, okay, I'm dropping everything. I used to take these notes in a meeting. I heard this guy sitting in a garage and from San Diego State giving me a talk, and okay, I'm just going to switch everything over today. That's not what you want to do. Take baby steps into there. Start with a stand-up. Start with whatever, and maybe you take notes side by side with this. Let it run parallel for a few meetings over a week. Get comfortable with it. Then is the point you want to actually put it into practice. I'm going to pull out a real weird analogy here, but I don't know if anybody out there has ever mouth taped before. This is something I actually just started doing a few years ago. So like literally at night, I used to breathe through my mouth. Now I put some little piece of tape on it and breathe through my nose. One of the things they say, whenever you're starting off mouth taping, the last thing in the world that you want to do is just put a piece of tape over your mouth and go to bed at night and expect you're going to be able to sleep and do all this stuff as part of that. No, what they tell you is like, okay, you want to start during the day. You just want to kind of put it on when you have a half hour, put it on, test that out, see how that goes. Find another time where you're maybe just reading a book, put it on, just kind of get comfortable with it. Put it on 30 minutes before bed, whatever it might be. You need to ease yourself into this. Don't just kind of jump in whole hog because AI is the hot new buzzword. Take your time. You will find the efficiencies, but if you just throw yourself into it, that's going to be too much. It's going to be overwhelming. And frankly, it's not going to be as efficient for you in the long run. It's another thing I'll be talking about mouth tape today, but I did bring that up. Okay, risk and issue detection. This is one of my favorite ones, and one of my favorite AI models out there. Like, could you know the risks before they happen? And ChatGPT has a model called O3, and I think you have to pay for that one. I don't know if that's available on the free tier or not. But it is a wonderful kind of logical model where it really lets you that really enables the ability to think through a problem. That's what I was trying to say. And so this is AI's take on Sherlock Holmes. Very much Cumberbatch looking here, even though I didn't necessarily ask for that. What was Sherlock Holmes known for? He could basically make a big picture conclusion out of what might be the most minute detail out there. An example, Holmes looks at a person's charging port and is able to deduce that this person has a drinking habit. They come back from Afghanistan. This was in the Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes, and all this stuff he was able to deduce from this, all because of looking at somebody's charging port. He just saw that something was wrong, how it was scratched, all this. He was able to look at the most minute detail and make this big picture assumption from this. So taking what might seem like a trivial detail and expanding that to a full personality profile or a full insight into your project is one of these things that a reasoning engine like ChatGPT o3 would be able to do. So quick sidebar on reasoning. This was something from called Lava 1.5. This came out about probably about a year and a half ago. I think this came out. And this was not in the training data, and just asked the AI what's unusual about this image. And this is what a reasoning engine does. It's never seen this picture before, but it's able to deduce, just like Sherlock Holmes would, well, wait a minute. I see cars, they're moving in this direction, but there's somebody ironing. I understand ironing. I understand doing that. You usually don't iron on a taxi. Why would a person be attached to a taxi? So on and so forth. And as you can kind of see in the explanation there, it's able to deduce all these things. For us as a human, we probably look at that and be like, okay, yeah, we know that. But the thing is, computers cannot do this until really the last 18 months or so. They've been able to deduce these kind of things. And what they're doing is trying to match patterns here. So, let's have AI catch early warning signs that could potentially derail a project. So throw the appropriate documents into a tool like ChatGPT. In this, you really want to pick O3, which is their reasoning model. And there's other versions. Grok 4 just released. That's a reasoning model in itself. You just want to make sure if you're using that, if you're using XAI, Claude Opus with extended thinking is probably what you want to do in that model. But then you could ask it questions about all the documentation, about all the data that's in there. What dependencies do you see that might cause a delay? Are there anything off in this timeline? Stakeholder concerns, whatever questions you might have, find those things out now. You're doing a pre-mortem in many ways versus the post-mortem. Pre-mortem is actually something I used to run whenever I was a product manager. Always get in front of the problems now. Have these deep discussions, and you can have an AI effectively do that pre-mortem type discussion for you. And so I did not share outputs with this one here, but this is the crux of what it's getting to. Put the information you have, and frankly, with these AI models, the more the better. As long as it's related to your project. The last thing you want to do is, You're working on a project about a house remodeling and put a bunch of documentation about like an ice cream, your favorite flavors of ice cream in there. That's just going to confuse AI, get you farther from the truth. But as long as it's pertinent to the project that you're working on, throw all of those types of things out there and then just start pinging the AI again and again and again with these types of questions. Ultimately, the big thing with this though is don't just blindly accept, well, it says that there's going to be a problem with this, so that means it's going to be a problem because AI said so. This isn't some magical, like all-knowing oracle. It's not that. Case in point, just yesterday, I'm playing with Grok 4. One of the things I asked, I'm like, hey, Grok 4, where's the Dow going to close today? And I forgot what the number was. And it's like, well, it's going to be up from where it's at. And it did all this analysis, and you want it to close down. It doesn't know that. It could take all this data, it could look at this, it could look at trends, it could do all this other kind of stuff. It's not going to be able to exactly predict the future, though. This is where the human intuition comes in. This is where you, as a project manager, really start to add value. Because you could take all these things and it's going to bring up blind spots. It's going to bring up things that you might not have seen otherwise. And that's why just asking it the right questions, it's going to give you a whole bunch of insight from that. You're going to be able to dive deeper in the ones that you think have value. You could even ask it like, hey, why did you say this? Because I don't think that makes any sense. It might come back to you and say, yeah, you're right. Or, oh, this is why I said it. But again, you are the person with the discretion here. And this is how we talked about in the beginning. The job of a project manager is changing, it is evolving, it is doing it very quickly. This is where you add your value. And if you're saying to me, Mike, I don't know about this stuff, I'm good at this other stuff, like you need to kind of upskill to this area more and more and more as you can to be able to query the AI, but then put that human level of filter on there to say, okay, I know enough about these projects. I do see these as a risk. I need to bring this forth to the team. I need to have the team pivot and do this. I need to tell somebody about this. I need to talk to the engineers about this, whatever it might be. Those are the kind of things that are going to come forth from this. And AI is your companion here. It is not your oracle, but is your companion. Okay. Automated processes. This is using something called Zapier. Although there are many other tools that are out there that you can use instead of Zapier. Make.com is one that I've used a lot. Make.com is like another automation tools, and all it's doing is building connections. And by making these connections through Zapier, through Make, you're going to be able to potentially build processes that are going to run themselves. How cool is that? So think of it this way. That's Santa, and that's the AI version of Santa, which I thought was pretty good. What is Santa known for? Santa is known for bringing toys to girls and boys every Christmas, right? But in the lore, the guy gets a lot of credit for this. He's not working 364 days out of the year, though. He's really working one day. Who's doing all the work? It's the elves. The elves are the one that are doing all the work out there. I don't know what Santa's got thousands, millions of these elves building all the toys for all the kids around the world or whatever it is in the story. But Santa gets all the credits. So, how is this analogy pertinent to you? Well, you are Santa Claus in this example. Who are the elves? The elves are the AIs. The elves are the AIs that are going to be working for you behind the scenes. Again, things go wrong, it's going to be on you. Like ultimately, like the responsibility doesn't ever shift to the AI. The responsibility is always with an AI going to sit with a human. And that's a good thing because again, if the responsibility ever is like, well, we could just blame the AI, then that's the point where there is jobs that start to go away. But like, I don't see that future anytime soon. The responsibility is still going to sit with you for that. So could you have an agent automate a repetitive process like pull from Jira and updating status decks? Absolutely, you could do things like that. Budgeting for spending updates, all these kinds of things. You can absolutely do that. And this is just a couple screenshots on how you can use something like Zapier. So you can connect Zapier to, something that you have in Google Slides that you need to have updated, and that's going to pull from a Google Sheet or whatever it might be. And you could effectively make these types of trigger events that are going to be able to do that automatically, be able to pull something from that to that. Um, the thing about Zapier, the thing about Make and all these other tools is you can worry a lot less about the hallucinations here, generally speaking, because these are kind of much more traditional coding methods. This is like print hello world and a print hello world for you. Um, if you have set this up in the right way to say, hey, this is the kind of information you need to take from this sheet, it needs to be populated in this slide, um, that is very likely going to be successful. You'll want to check it the first few times, but these are the kind of things I want to run by itself. Now, the second you insert a large language model into the middle of this thing, well, that changes things potentially. Because then you say, like, well, I want you to do this, and I want you to do an analysis. Give me a one paragraph summary, and I want you to use Google's Gemini to do that. Well, then Gemini is kind of the thing that might fall off the rails a little bit there. So it's going to be able to look at the data, do an analysis. That's where you want to make sure you get that check in there. But ultimately, this is the whole concept. If you've heard of AI agents before, this is something that you can start doing today. Zapier, Make, any of these types of tools, like effectively creating your own agents to take those automated workflows, to take the workflows that you are doing today and automate those processes to give you more time for the value added stuff. All right. Finally, perhaps my favorite, and even though I didn't mention in the beginning because it's a little bit of the different technology from the rest, something called Notebook LM, which is also made by Google. Could this be your AI project assistant? So that's supposed to be Professor X from the X-Men connected to something called Cerebro. Looks like an old man being electrocuted, but I'm going with it. I asked for Professor X, and we're going with that. What Notebook LM is going to help you do is it's going to give you a basically super brain for your project. Because what you can do is you could effectively set up these notebooks, drop a whole bunch of information in there, and you have all of this data, all of these meeting notes, the project plans, all this stuff at your fingertips in there. So Notebook LM, you can actually upload, and I haven't tested this, but I've done it with about 50 different documents into it. I actually read that I think they've increased it to 300 now. So you could upload 300 different project docs into a single notebook within Google's Notebook LM. You want this AI to know everything that it can about the project that you have. Now, the thing to keep in mind is as I said before, I didn't put in the same category as ChatGPT in all of them because what Notebook LM is using is something called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. It is a different type of technology that effectively uses the data that you're putting in there as primary source for all of the information that it's then going to spit out. So unlike XAI or ChatGPT that's going to be pinging the web and doing all this other stuff, Notebook LM has basically been trained to say, like, hey, you see this data? This is the stuff you want to query in there. I've done some funky tests with this where I put in 50 documents and I put in something weird, kind of its concept of a needle in a haystack. And I say, hey, what are some weird things that's in here? Notebook LM could scour through that, make sense of that, and pull that out. It's really amazing to be able to do that. And again, you could have this notebook set up, you could share it. So anybody on the team can access it. They don't always have to go through you unless you want them to, whatever it might be. Great way to onboard new team members. They could literally just start querying like, hey, what's happened in the last 2 months on this project? What were the big problems that we had? Whatever it might be. Traceability, all these kind of things. It helps with handoffs. It just helps so much. Of all of the tools I talked about, and I talked about many here, Notebook LM is probably the one that is underutilized, and I could really see as a project manager that's being your best friend because there's just so much that you can do with that. And that's what Notebook LM looks like. It's where you could upload all the information in there. And this is just something I did was I was just uploading a bunch of Berkshire Hathaway 10Ks and that, and it gives you a summary of that. And then I could query, I could ask for trends, all this other kind of stuff. I could ask like, how has the tone changed and so forth. And you could have all of these going back through time. Every project of yours could be a separate notebook. There's so many different ways to do this. All right. Now, I'm going to end with some pro tips and then get right into Q&A. If you got questions, drop them in the chat because in like a minute or so, I will do this. I already started off with this, but I want to hit it again. Don't over optimize on finding the perfect model. All of these models are good. All the things that we talked about today will be able to just really be good enough. So if you have access to one at your work, go with that one. And what I would say is start with wherever the most pain is for you. Like I said, don't throw everything in there at once. That is not the thing to do to just say, hey, I'm going to offload everything. I'm going to do all that other kind of stuff. Start with that one weekly report. Start with whatever it might be. Automate one process. Don't automate all your processes at once. Do one, figure it out, find the nuance, and that will help you go slow to go fast. That is going to be a real important thing with this. Just like, don't just throw everything at it at once. Document your prompts, share them with other project managers that you know inside, outside of your company. You will learn from each other. One of the best things I could recommend is set up a Slack, set up a Discord, set up a WhatsApp group or something with a bunch of project manager friends and say, hey, can we just share AI stuff even though we're not the same company? We're not going to send, proprietary information. Tell me what you're using. Tell me how you're using it. This is the way to learn. The problem with these tools is they have infinite capabilities. Not a single one of these tools was built just for project managers. They were built for effectively everything. And when you have a tool that's built for everything, it's hard to know, well, what should I be using it for? And this is why if you share, it's going to make you so much stronger. And combine tools. And you can use things like Make or Zapier to do that. Maybe you start something in Fireflies. It's going to pull that from the meeting transcript. It's going to throw that into ChatGPT. It's going to do some work. It's going to send something to Slack. You can use these agents, so to speak, on Make or Zapier to do just those things. And the more benefit you have is by setting up things that you do daily, that you do weekly. That's where the value is going to start to accrue for you. And again, your job in a few years is going to look totally different. Be proactive with that. Don't let people change your job for you. Be the one to change your job. Be the one to be more strategic. Be the one that makes yourself more efficient. With all that said, how the heck did I do in time? 13 minutes to go. Not bad. I hope there's some questions out there. I would love to be able to answer any of them. Andrea, do we have any questions? Are you going to be reading them out? Is that, or should I?
Yes, I'm going to read them out for you,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I always learn something new on these sessions. So
I do too.
yeah.
So
That's great.
that makes two of us.
Yes, AI moves fast, so you gotta, always be a student of AI.
Totally.
So we did have a question from Kylie, who you met at San Jose State University.
Yeah. Hi, Kylie.
And Kylie wanted to know, how much can we trust these AI extensions, and which models do you trust the most for keeping data secure and not leveraging it to train off your interactions?
I don't know what an extension is. I think when she's saying, Kylie, when you're saying extension, do you actually mean somebody who's like building a project management software suite and they're using ChatGPT, like the O3 model to run it, and they're calling APIs? I think that's what you mean, but if it's something else, like, let me know. How much do I trust those? Look, here's what I would say. It's tough to be in the software business today. Like it really is, in part because I think a lot of these tools will be usurped by the language models, because we're at a point now where you can create your own software. We didn't even get into that. That's like number 6. Like you could be actually having the AI code software for you that could do whatever it is that you want to do, and you don't have to pay money to whomever it is on the outside to do that. And especially like Gemini, Claude Opus, they do that really darn well. So extensions, do I trust them? It depends, I think I would have to say. Now, your question on leaking data and so forth. The first thing I would say is use the corporate tool that you're already using. So hopefully, and if you don't have this in your work, wherever you're at, you probably need to talk to your CTO or CIO or whomever and say like, hey, we need an AI tool because here's the reality, and all CIOs should know this. If you're not allowing your employees to use ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, they're using it anyway, and they'd rather have control on this. We're all using Amazon, Microsoft, Google to store information anyway. Yes, I know it's a little bit different, but we're already trusting these partners with our data when we're storing it up in the cloud. And there are safeguards around that. These companies know they're going to make a lot more money selling AI models. They're doing everything possible through enterprise plans to be able to safeguard this information so that they're not actually training on it. Is there a possibility? Sure, there is. If you're really worried about that, like if you're using super sensitive information, you should probably be running this on a local machine with an open source model like DeepSeek or Llama or something like that, and you should have that. But for 95% of use cases, I think as long as you're using an enterprise plan, as long as you're following the same rules that you would have in place for sending emails, for storing stuff on servers, just go with whatever the corporate plan or the enterprise plan that you have is, and you'll be okay.
Awesome. Are there stages of project maturity where AI makes more sense, or do you find it useful at any level?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I would actually say it probably makes the most sense in the beginning, in part because to me, and again, I'm not a lifelong project manager, but I've dabbled in it. Like, it's hard to change things midstream. And this is the exact same advantage now that startups have versus incumbents in the world of AI. That question about enterprise security and so forth, or getting access to the tool, this is why, the concept of the $1 billion one-person startup is being popularized, because you can do so much with yourself and all these AI agents and not be hindered by, I don't know, bureaucracy, certain constraints on doing your work or whatever it might have within a typical corporate environment. And I think, if I were to say a suggestion, if you had one existing project that's, kind of nearing close versus one you're just starting off the ground, I would think the more benefit would accrue to that to that project that you're just getting off the ground. Use those tools there, use them from day zero. Get everybody on the team on board with how you're going to be using this, how you're going to experiment, what you're going to try. And yeah, there's going to be adjustments along the way, 100%. But I think it's just easier doing it for a new project than an old one.
Makes sense. We had another question from Luis, and he said, Mike, in addition to Notebook LM, are you aware of other tools who are leading the charge as far as AI specific capabilities for project management tasks? For example, he gave Smartsheet, Asana, Trello, Monday.com.
Yeah. The answer is yes. Like all of there is no shortage of tools for project managers that are out there. Monday.com, of course, Trello, they're all going to have different niches. They're all kind of expanding their niches to be like the one all-encompassing thing. You may have software through Asana or whatever that you're using, an AI software that is going to do some of the stuff I just described here. And if you got that, use it. Like what I was describing here is kind of the most generic way of looking at it by using these foundation models. It's a little bit of cutting out the middleman, so to speak, and just saying, hey, they're probably not making their own foundation model. They're tweaking it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can actually do this with the core models themselves. It's a little bit of a matter of taste. I would say if you are curious about what project management software suites are out there that just use AI, literally put that into ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever and say, hey, what are all the tools? Tell me where they're good. Tell me where they're bad. And summarize that for me and put it in a table. Any of these tools will be able to do that. And then you can start to go deeper and say, oh, this is actually interesting. I don't want to use ChatGPT, but I like this type of tool that meets my needs, and go and trial that.
Great. We had another question from Liza. What are some AI tools to use for data analysis, like for predictive analytics and model building?
Um, it's so funny. I was just doing that thing as I mentioned with the Dow Jones yesterday because they actually showed that in the Grok 4 analysis. They tried to pick who was going to win the World Series, and they had Grok 4 do the analysis of that, and it came out like Dodgers at 23%. But I think that's basically where prediction markets are right now. It wasn't that impressive, to be completely honest. Um, but these tools are going to get better at that. And the thing I am sure there's a lot of people that are touting you can use this for FP&A or something, and you're going to be able to use this for forecasting. And the AI is going to be able to do better than anybody on your team is. And that might be true. That might be true. But the reality is the world is a really complex place. And yes, you can train an AI with 100 years of your company's financials. If your company's been around for 100 years, you could upload everything in there. It could digest all of that. It would know all of the trends that have happened, all of the wars, all of the shocks, all of the spikes, all of that would be known by these AI models. And it's still not going to get it right. And that's okay. Is it going to get it a little bit better? Maybe. Like when using these tools for forecasting and analysis, I'm not trying to be dismissive of them. I think they can be great companions that are going to be able to do some of the mundane work, but this is such an inexact science. Like there's a lot of human discretion that is going to be at play here. If anybody's ever read the book Super Forecasters before, it's a really great tale about like how can you get better at predicting stuff and what are the keys of the predictors, and you can even like drop that in there and say, hey, can you predict like super forecasters? That's one of the advantages these bigger models that I kind of talked about versus specific software suite. You could actually say, hey, I really believe in these forecasting philosophies. Can you help build a model for me and help me do data analysis of what might happen to our company in the future following that? It can do that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more customized for you. But ultimately, like, yes, I'm sure there's a lot of tools out there. I don't know about any specifically for that, but there's going to be a ton. And whatever it is, just you're the one in charge and just use it to help you.
Beautiful. All right. I think we have time for one more question. And it looks like we got a question from Walt. He said, similar to Luis, are there tools that help with communication of these reports, such as Confluence, which has interfaces to Jira built in? And then what do others use that integrates with the recommended models?
I actually lost part of what you said there. I heard Confluence and integration. Is the question, Andrea, like integrating with Confluence and all these other things? Like I missed half of what you said there. I'm sorry.
No worries, I'll repeat.
Okay.
So are there tools that help with communication of these reports, such as Confluence, which has interfaces to Jira built in?
Okay. So I don't know for sure, but I think if you actually, so what I would do, Walt, on this one is I would actually type in make.com Zapier clones. Zapier has got to have ties into Atlassian products and Jira and so forth in there. Like I'd be shocked if it doesn't. Again, I'm not deep into the project management world, so I don't know for sure. But like I would think that through these tools you have that. One of the great things that Claude Anthropic has actually done is they have actually put out a protocol like last December for AI agents to be able to talk to each other much more efficiently. It's called MCP. And so you could actually even probably just go in and say like, hey, which of these tools follow the MCP protocol? Most software suites, like all the language models now use it. It's kind of become a de facto standard that is going to enable agents to talk to each other. And so I don't know of any specifically, but I would very much think so. And if you just kind of Google either just see what does Zapier have connections to and just list out the software suites, or frankly, just say, hey, I use this suite of software. How can I connect these to each other using Zapier-like tools? And X.com or any of these other tools would be able to do a live web search and do that pretty well for you.
Beautiful. All right. So we're
Well,
bumping right up on time. We did have a couple other questions in the chat. Mike, if anybody wanted to follow up with some questions for you, what's the best way to contact you?
yeah, you could DM me. You could even post it on LinkedIn. I mean, we're all on LinkedIn watching this right now. So like literally you could just at me on LinkedIn as a post and I'll respond to it, or send me a DM if it's more personal. However you want to do it. I'm happy to respond to whatever you got.
Wonderful. Thank you. Can you flip to the next slide for me just before we wrap this up? I did want to share some resources that we do offer at SDSU Global Campus, the Career Skills Institute. Um, for those who are interested in sort of sharpening up their project management skills, again, these are great courses, even if you aren't a project manager by trade, just to be able to learn how to effectively manage projects, which you typically touch on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the chat box for you all. If you're interested, we do have a certification course as a partner of the Project Management Institute. So please feel free to check that out. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Otherwise, we thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that you gleaned a lot of great insights. And we hope that you join us for our next Expert Series events, which is going to be next month, Friday, September 19th, 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking about mastering AI prompts. So how to feed the system what you need, or feed the system what it needs to give you the outputs that you're looking for. And you can follow us on SDSU Global Campus on our socials to stay tuned for the registration link. But yes, thank you all. Thank you, Mike, for your time today. And thank you, Ian, for sharing those awesome insights. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.